Hello everyone, Spider Fanboy here to bring you the next part of What If Hinata Was on Team 7. So last we left off, we were just about to get into the finals of the tuning exams. We're going to get to the final tournament arc. Um, just to reiterate, the main difference here in terms of the lineup is just that Hinata is going to be replacing Neji in the first battle against Gaara, or in the first battle against Naruto. So the opening match is gonna be Naruto versus Hinata. So yeah, and I figured let's go on ahead and just jump right into it. So for the training, what are we gonna have our main trio be doing? So the main focus we're gonna be having here is actually Hinata is going to be doing some training with. I hinted to it before. Kakashi tried to get it set up, but since Anko was busy with preparing for the first part of the tuning exams, she was a little bit tied up. But now she's going to be able to follow up on that favor Kakashi decided to cash in. And she's going to be tutoring Hinata in her usage of poisons, senbon, more lethal type of stealthy techniques. Um, and getting her used to that kind of rambunctious, unorthodox kind of fighting styles. Not exactly, obviously, Anko's fighting style is different from Naruto's, but her usage of her like shadow strike snake techniques, um, her way of maneuvering around her opponent, tricking them, making use of her poisons. It could be anything from hallucinogenics to outright deadly poisons, more paralysis-based poisons, various things that can maybe mess with his chakra network, his chakra control. A lot of things that'll kind of just throw him off his game. That's what Hinata's really going for, and she's also going to be training with her father, Hanabi, and now that Hayashi has decided to finally talk to him and set things straight, she's going to be able to mend her relationship with Neji and begin training with him. Naruto is for now just going to be doing some further practicing of his wind style and beginning his introductory training to adding wind style onto the Rasengan. He doesn't think he'll be using it against Hinata, but he does want to overall improve all of his baseline skills so that he can compete with her. And Kakashi has already told him that he actually has a bit of a mentor figure in mind. For now, he's going to be introducing him to a friend of his from his time in the Abu. He used to go by a different name, but as of now, he's recently taken up the name of Yamato. So we're going to be introducing him a little earlier, and we're basically going to get like the same Rasen Shuriken training as we got in the anime. But since he already has a start, he's going to be starting on the waterfall like straight from the get-go. Since he's already been working on refining his usage of wind chakra. So he's going to be moving on to the waterfall directly from the get-go, and he's going to be taking. And obviously Yamato's going to be there in case his chakra goes out of control. He starts using the Nine Tails power, and he's going to be taking Sasuke to help him further refine his usage of his Sharingan. Um, Make it so that he can actually use his Genjutsu in battle because he hasn't been making too much use of it. But he's going to be helping him further refine his usage of the Sharingan. He's going to be teaching him the Raikiri, and Sasuke is also going to be developing his variants of the Chidori since he's had it for by the end of this month he's going to be having it two for like 2 months now, like 2 solid months, and with Kakashi here to help him out. Or now he'll be learning Raikiri and the Lightning Beast Fang. I think it's like Lightning Beast Running Fang Jutsu. Let me see, Lightning Beast Run Tracking Fang. It's like Tracking Fang or Running Fang. When Kakashi, he pulled it out during the Pain Invasion. I can see him. Yeah, he'll be teaching him that. He'll be teaching him the Lightning Cable, where he uses a Shadow Clone. And since Sasuke's been working so much with all of these various jutsus, you can definitely believe he's expanded his his chakra reserves. And Kakashi has too, since he's been training so much. So he'll probably be teaching him things like the lightning clone, the running fang, or the lightning beast tracking fang, and the proper Raikiri. And I did mention that Hinata herself does know the Chidori, and she's going to be making use of that as well. She's really pushing herself way beyond way beyond anything we normally would have been able to see from her. But yeah, everyone's going to be diversifying their techniques, and it's not long before we can easily say that here, instead of it being a chance encounter at the hot springs, we can say that Jiraiya actually ends up seeking out Naruto maybe after a week. He was kind of expecting to run into him by accident. He wanted to happen organically, but the third Hokage's finally kind of had enough. He's like, just go talk to your damn godson. So he gets sent out by Sarutobi. He sends him out to actually meet up with Naruto, and he finds him training. By now, after months, or at least his like 2 weeks of training in the Land of Waves and his month worth of training prior to the tuning exams. Yeah, he's gotten a lot better with his wind release and making use of his shadow clones. Yeah, he's practically nailed splitting up the waterfall, and he's about to begin working on just adding the base wind style so that he only has like his basic wind style Rasengan. Um, he's getting better and better at it. Uh, he did have to initially use a few clones to help him stabilize it, but now that he's gotten the hang of it, he just needs to completely keep his concentration and use both hands. So he has like that initial wind style Rasengan down, or at least he's starting to get it down. And then Jiraiya ends up introducing himself. He introduces himself as the great toad sage of Mount Miyaboku, legendary Sani Jiraiya. And Naruto's kind of impressed, but maybe not, but definitely not as much as Jiraiya would have expected. So Naruto's receiving him, has a bit of a better reception of him. But he's also, trying to get focused on his training. So if this old guy has anything to offer him, he better make his pitch quick. He's really trying to get this down. He needs to be able to compete against Hinata and beat Sasuke. And beyond that, his main goal outside of getting proper matches with his teammates, his family, is facing off against Gara. Wouldn't be surprised if he does get that since he's sticking around. Yeah, and since he's aware of the fact that Gara's a Jinchuriki practically from the get go, he's cautious of the guy, and he definitely has a very strong respect for Rock Lee as well. Um, After seeing his match against Gara, so either he does get, I think it was like he was injured or something during his training. I don't know. I don't exactly remember why he was in the hospital when Gara tried to kill Rock Lee, but he's definitely gonna be there, same as in canon. But either way, main thing is that he's gonna be, Jiraiya's gonna introduce himself, uh, teacher to the fourth Hokage. He shows off his own usage of the Rasengan, and even expands it to the Big Ball Rasengan. And Naruto's like, yeah, I can do that. Can't you see what I'm trying to do right now, though? And this is when Jiraiya is like, oh, trying to add your element to it. Huh, pretty impressive, kid. Well, what do you say I help streamline the process? And he's like, how exactly can you? He's like, how can you do that? He's like, okay, well, maybe I can't help with this, but I can definitely give you something else. Something that I did give to the fourth Hokage. And this actually kind of piques Naruto's interest as well as all of his clones who are also training and trying to properly stabilize his wind style Rasengan. This does kind of cause it to begin to destabilize, so he quickly resorts to using a Gale Palm so that he can shoot it out into the distance, and it quickly ends up exploding um, in like the whole crowd of his shadow clones, which causes all of them to destabilize their wind style Rasengans, causing like a whole series of mini explosions, which Yamato quickly, he sets up like a wood wall so that they can protect themselves. They're not None of them are as powerful as even the initial Rasen Shuriken that he ended up using against Kakuzu. But since there's a whole bunch of them, it ends up leaving a whole bunch of craters in the training ground they're working in. And he's like, okay, well, I'll at least for now, since how about we leave that for now, and I show you what I got for you, kid. And Yamato's kind of, he's a little unimpressed. This is supposed to be one of the legendary Sanin students of the third Hokage, but he's like, whatever. He's gonna be like, yeah, I'll just chill over here then. Um, him and Naruto probably have like they're starting to build a similar relationship to what they have throughout these series. But yeah, it's Jiraiya ends up showing off his summonings, and Naruto's a little skeptical. He knows that Kakashi has his dogs, and similarly, Kiba himself has Akamaru. Shino has his insects, and that guy and the person that they fought in the forest has those snakes. He wonders exactly how frogs can help. And this is when Jiraiya's like, they're not frogs, they're toads. Didn't you hear me before? I'm the toad sage. Besides, they can be used for all sorts of things, helping in sealing, combination jutsus, genjutsus, anything that you can't cover, they can help you with. And they're especially good with espionage and infiltration. And this kind of gets Naruto's attention. His skill sets with his shadow clones and his shuriken jutsu definitely make him a good stealthy, crafty fighter. So he's a little interested in what they can do. So he's like, all right, where do we start? So Jiraiya gets him to sign up, and with his superb, definitely in comparison to Canon, superb chakra control, he's definitely able to properly summon. Here he had, like, first try, he ends up summoning Gamakichi and oh, I forgot his brother. I can't believe I did that. Gamakichi and Gamatatsu. So he summons them initially. He ends up making, he makes like that kind of initial meeting with them, gets that kind of starting friendship with them. Gamatatsu's, they're definitely kind of annoyed that there's like, no candy or anything. He's like, I guess I'll make sure to keep some on me in the future. And when they end up dispelling, Naruto ends up asking like, "Am I gonna have to always have candy?" He's like, Each of the toads have their own quirks and needs. Not all of them, but yeah, definitely keep something on you for those two at least." And he's like, "Okay." And he'll probably be summoning like the more smaller toads. Like I know there was like a warrior toad. There was like a full out samurai toad summon. Hold on. Uh, Samurai Toad Summon Naruto. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering this correctly. I really hope I do. Well, he's going to be teaching him to. Yeah, I was right. There was like this armored toad that Jiraiya ended up summoning to protect Naruto from Kasame in that little battle in the hotel. So like maybe he like gets to summoning those, and he's like summoning bigger and bigger summons until eventually all on his own he's either able to summon that I don't remember their names. They're the twos that helped him in his battle against Pain. Aside from Gamabunta, there was the one with the weird pronged staff and the shield, and then there was the one who wielded the two blades. The first one was like a pinkish color, and the second one was like a light blue and like teal color. So like he ends up summoning them individually, and he's normally doing this while his clones are perfecting the Wind Style Rasengan. Um, so we can easily say this ends up happening over the course of like, so the first week has practically gone by. Um, his introductory days with Jiraiya, like first meeting him, probably like on the sixth and seventh day is when like they initially get their introductions in order, and over the course of the next 2 weeks, so week 2 and week 3, he ends up learning how to summon those two, other larger summons alongside, outside of Gamabunta, the purplish one, and the blue teal one. And shortly after this, he does end up getting pushed to like he learns how to. By this point, he has had a few incidents with bringing out the Kyuubi's chakra, his clones, kind of like how during his Rasen Shuriken training. But aside from that, he does end up learning how to pull out from all of this experience, all of his clones doing it, and the fact that he's aware of the memory thing. Um, he does end up learning how to call upon the Kyuubi's chakra more so on his own rather than needing to be pushed off. So at the beginning of the third week, he ends up summoning Gamabunta, and he's able to pass that a little initial test. He's able to stick to his back, and by this point, his clone, with the help of his clones and trying it out on his own, he's managed to properly get down. Sorry, you had to see my forehead a little bit. Just wanted to readjust. Oh, Gamma Hero and Gamma Ken. That's their name. Okay, hold on. Gamma Hero is which one? Gamma Hero is the like white and teal, like the light blue. I don't really know how to describe him. He almost has like a similar color scheme to Katsuyu, but like it's a bit more greenish. So Gamma Hero is the one with like the dual swords, the two katanas, and Gamma Ken is the one with like the shield and pronged staff. So he learns how to summon them during like his second and third week. And like beginning of like his last week, he ends up some or no, over the course of the second week he ends up learning how to summon Gamma Ken and Gamma Hero. And beginning of the third week is when he summons Gamabunta. I'm gonna speed up his progress. There's no point to slow him down too much. And the other one I had him become real OP real quickly. But yeah, he ends up summoning Gamabunta by the beginning of the third week. And Logan, don't tear up the carpet. What are you doing, my dog? He ends up learning how to summon Gamabunta. We'll say he ends up like drawing on that little bit of the Kyuubi's chakra. He once again has like a little meeting with him, and he's like, toads, huh? Disgusting little creatures. The fact that you would need their assistance when I'm already powerful enough. How greedy are you, you little human brat? And Naruto ends up rebuking this. He's pretty sure that the Nine Tails doesn't want him to use his chakra. He kind of got that impression the last few talks that they ended up having. He thought that the Nine Tails hated him, so he thought he'd be happy that he wouldn't have to bother him all the time. Kind of mocks him like my lord, thought you wouldn't want a pathetic morsel human like myself to bother you all the time. And the Kurama definitely rebukes this. He's like, I don't, but you shouldn't need it. I myself am enough. You should have some pride. You are my container, the container to the mightiest of the tailed beasts. And obviously he keeps it private to himself, aside from the 10 tails. But then again, that's more of a true demon than even myself. But he does keep that to himself. But he's like, look, I'm learning how to do this on my own. All right, if you really don't want me to bother you, then whatever. Just let me finish. Just let me get back to my training. I'll learn how to summon the big boss toad by myself eventually. And he's like, whatever. He ends up kind of shrugging it off. Maybe he's a little butthurt that Naruto doesn't want relying more and more on his power. He definitely wants to get free, but he's seeing a little bit more of Naruto's true character. That he's a good kid at the end of the day. He's seeing it just that little bit more. He has two proper friends who are going to be able to help him encourage his better aspects of himself, and Kakashi's like a proper sensei here. But yeah, he ends up learning how to summon Gamabunta. Maybe like third day of his third week, he ends up summoning him properly, or maybe like the beginning. His clones definitely, they've gotten it down so that they can properly form the Wind Style Rasengan in one hand and in either hand. Maybe they can't do it in both hands at once. That's a little chakra intensive, for him at least for right now. And when he ends up passing Gamabunta's test, he's like, make sure to keep those kids of mine around you. They seem to really like you. And Naruto, he's gonna be keeping Gamakichin and Gamatatsu around whenever he's training. And he learns how to, he ends up meeting Ma and Pa eventually. Maybe Jiraiya decides, by this point he's gotten his initial Wind Style Rasengan down. He feels that he could push it further, but he thinks that'd be overkill for the Chunin exams. Although maybe it would be a good contingency to use against Gaara if he really needs to. And Jiraiya ends up saying to Yamato, he's like, don't worry, I'll be able to take it from here. I think it's about time. He's like, you progressed a lot faster than I ever could have expected, Naruto. I can see what Kakashi sees in you. He was the fourth student, so I guess it would make sense. But I honestly thought he was speaking a little too much hot air. But it seems he was right. You really might surpass the fourth one day. And definitely gets Naruto to beam in pride. He doesn't know that he's his father, but he does still view him as like his personal hero. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna surpass all of the Hokage. He's like, are you now? Well, I suppose I could give you just a little bit more of an edge. And he ends up taking him over to Mount Myoboku. Now, he's not gonna be learning Sage Mode just yet. 2 weeks isn't enough. It was always kind of, a lot of people got the impression that or I know a lot of people got the impression that Naruto ended up learning that he ended up learning Sage Mode over the course of about a month. How many days did he spend learning Sage Mode? It took him a week? Excuse you? No, that okay, that's like the first. That has to be bull. Excuse you? Okay, hold on. Okay, I'm not talking about when. I'm talking about like how long. Okay, yeah, how long did he train for it? How long? A few days. Less than a month. A lot of people get it that it's less than a month. Are you serious? Hold on. A lot of people seem to think it's about a week. Are you serious? I always thought it was like a month. But I guess that would make sense. He began his training in Sage Mode almost like immediately, like the day after he learned Jiraiya had died. He like went there almost immediately. Huh. That's absolutely insane. Are you serious? That quickly? Okay. Some people theorize that time in Mount Myoboku may move differently. It is a place that you can find in the real world, but it's also a place that you could get to by traveling through space-time, by using the summoning jutsu, which is a space-time ninjutsu. So it's possible it could have been in a month. Well, he's basically going to be having 2 weeks here. He's going to have like a week and a half. About like yeah. So I would have said like you know by the time of the third week, halfway through, like on the third day, he ends up summoning Gamabunta. That would leave him with a week and 4 days, so 11 days. Could he learn Sage Mode that quickly? Possibly. Possibly. He would. Okay, so he would end up getting introduced to Ma and Pa, and they would introduce the topic of Sage Mode to him. Now, Jiraiya might encourage this. He probably wants to give him an edge outside of the key beast chakra. He has a decent handle. He can go into that initial stage of, red eyes, whisker marks, and claws. So he can get that, initial power up where there's no physical changes, just the red flare of chakra. He can go further where he gets, the claws, the whiskers, and the red eyes. And the furthest he's been able to push it, he ended up showing Jiraiya just, yeah, maybe like throughout that we can say that Jiraiya wanted to test him. So we can say he probably on the fourth day, uh, early in the day, right after he's like, before I take you to the realm of the toads, I want to see exactly how far you've properly progressed before I take you onto learning this next step of power. And Naruto definitely agrees. So he ends up showing off what he can do. He makes use of his Shadow Clone Shuriken, Shadow Clone Jutsus. He initially just engages in pure Taijutsu. He ends up bringing out his chakra blades, and he summons his clones even without needing to use a seal. Since he's been using it so much, and he obviously gets the feedback of memories from his clones, he's gotten so used to it that he doesn't even need to make hand signs. And it's the same for when he just throws out when he uses it on his Shadow Shuriken and Kunai Shurikens. And even his exploding Shadow Clones, he doesn't need the hand signs. Um, and he's definitely able to, catch Jiraiya off guard, but with maybe like a few of his explosive Shadow Clones or explosive Shuriken Shadow Clones. But Jiraiya ends up showing off a few of his own techniques. He makes use of his own Shadow Clone. It's revealed that he was only fighting a Shadow Clone and throughout the beginning of their spar. Jiraiya makes his proper entrance into the battle, And when he almost gets caught off guard, but with a much more, with the same kind of maneuver, but on a much more massive scale, like Naruto ends up throwing, he ends up making like that, he ends up pulling out that large shuriken that Mizuki had, and then he expands it to what like Hiruzen is able to do with those super absurdly large shuriken, and he ends up throwing it, and it ends up and so do like a few of his shadow clones, who then cast the multi shuriken shadow clone jutsu, which turns into a whole swarm of human-sized shuriken, which then get close to exploding, and Jiraiya ends up he swaps out with a clone once more, who raises the mud wall before using that lion mane jutsu to protect himself with his hair. And when the smoke clears, Naruto sees the crumbled earth around him, all the very large craters, um, and Jiraiya's clone, which is covered up in singed hair. And then it pulls it back, and it reveals the fact that the clone is very injured, which then poofs away into non-existence. And Naruto ends up engaging against Jiraiya one-on-one once more. He begins, lashing out with his wind slashes, using his chakra blades, and he begins to power up into that first stage of using the Kyuubi's chakra, and then he gets the whiskers and the claws. He ends up channeling his chakra into the blades, which actually makes them larger. They get coated kind of like Asuma's, but to a much more absurd degree, and the chakra is red. And the wind blades themselves kind of have like that almost corrosive element of Kurama's chakra. It's like leaving not only slash marks on the ground, but it's also leaving some almost what look like scorch marks on the ground. The blades of wind are like noticeably hot. Whenever Jiraiya dodges past them, he can feel like a haze of heat, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the kid's definitely powerful." And he ends up asking Naruto if that's all he got, if that's all that he has. But Naruto ends up revealing that he ends up retorting by throwing one of his chakra blades at Jiraiya, which he ends up dodging. He's able to dodge even the chakra that's reaching out, that's expanding from the blade, and it ends up lodging itself. It ends up kind of like launching itself all the way down to the hilt, directly into the ground behind him. And he looks over to Naruto, and he's still holding both blades, and he realizes, oh crap. He looks behind him, and the blade ends up poofing into a QB enhanced clone, which then charges forward towards Jiraiya with a QB enhanced Rasengan. And Jiraiya quickly forms one of his own, and he ends up clashing with Naruto with the Shadow Clone, and they're at a bit of a stalemate until he hears the same kind of swirling sound of the Rasengan, but with a high pitch of whine added to it. He turns towards the proper Naruto, who is charging at him with a QB enhanced wind style Rasengan, and he ends up powering up his Rasengan that he's using on the clone into a big ball Rasengan, which overpowers it and shreds it into nothingness, before he then turns that big ball Rasengan onto Naruto's wind style Rasengan, and they end up clashing. And the two of them are properly equal. They're at an equal stalemate. Jiraiya is still one of the Sannin. He is no joke, even against the initially QB enhanced Naruto. But Naruto begins to draw on more and more of the QB's power, and he's actually able to solidly hold his focus. Um, he ends up forming the version 1 cloak with just one tail, and the Rasengan properly changes color. Maybe at this point it only had like a bit of a red tinge to it, a bit of an orange in there, but now it's properly turning into purple, and the blades of wind that are surrounding it are growing just that little bit bigger. Um, it's beginning to overpower Jiraiya's Rasengan more and more, and Jiraiya ends up decide he's like, yeah, the kid's cloaked in QB chakra. I can definitely afford to go a little higher, and he ends up powering it up all the way to an ultra big ball Rasengan, which knocks Naruto all the way back into the trees, only for him to charge back into the battle. He's not knocked out just yet, but he's definitely exhausted, even using the QB chakra. Jiraiya can see that there's just that little bit of mental and physical fatigue taking taking its toll on Naruto, And Naruto's actually able to, he's able to keep his focus for quite some time. But as he's fighting longer and longer, he actually gets close to, he's losing that little bit of his grip is slipping ever so slightly, and with each little slip, that slip grows bigger and bigger, and he slips more and more. And as the second tail is about to pop out, Jiraiya says, "All right, that's enough." And this actually gets to Naruto. He's able to properly reinforce his hold. And unbeknownst to him, as he's like struggling to rein in the Kyuubi's chakra, Jiraiya actually has a chakra seal tag ready to pull out if he feels he needs to. But Naruto does end up reining in the chakra. It ends up seeping back into his skin, and he ends up collapsing. He wakes up a few hours later after having rested for a bit. Jiraiya used some basic medical ninjutsu he had to treat whatever light injuries Naruto had that the Kyuubi's chakra didn't take care of. And when he wakes up, he's actually already in Mount Miyaboku. Jiraiya reverse summoned the two of them there. And he ends up meeting Ma and Pa. He gets their introduction to them. He ends up being offered the insect soup, and all he can do is accept it with a very shaky, queasy smile on his face, while cursing Jiraiya to the depths of hell for making him endure this. But he tells them he thinks he's ready. He thinks he's ready to take the next step, and he does ask. He definitely did check with Ma and Pa, and they're definitely ecstatic. This is Minato's kid. They definitely want to see what he's capable of, and this is where he begins working with more combination jutsus as well as learning about Sage Mode. And he does end up. I'm gonna say he does end up learning it, and he does employ the same methods he does um, as in canon, since he's so in tune with using his shadow clones. So he does end up using his shadow clones to help him practice Sage Mode more. Since he has better chakra control, maybe instead I think he only was able to keep up like 2 or 3 clones. But we can say he's able to just use. How many clones did he use? Naruto Sage Mode training. So he's gonna have like 9 or 10 days of this kind of training. Okay, he only had like 2 clones. With better chakra control, we're gonna give him 3. He's gonna have 3 clones, training with them and bettering his usage of Sage Mode. And since Ma and Pa are definitely gonna be taking advantage of this, and they're basically gonna be forcing Jiraiya to jump in on the training and to properly master his usage of Sage Mode. Now, I don't think his version of Sage Mode is necessarily weaker because it's incomplete, because he does have Ma and Pa, bonded to him when he's in Sage Mode, to keep him from being imbalanced. I think it's mainly just, how long it takes him to get into the state. Like how long it takes him to balance his chakra with natural energy. I think like that's the main drawback of his imperfected Sage Mode, like how long it takes him to get into the state, and the fact that he needs Ma and Pa by his side. Here he's gonna learn how to do it, on himself. He's gonna be training with Naruto throughout this time, and he is gonna be learning perfected Sage Mode. Now, since he's still used to fighting with Ma and Pa, and because they are useful with their usage of Genjutsu and being able to perform combination techniques with them. He is still gonna be having Ma and Pa on his shoulders whenever he uses Sage Mode, but here he's gonna be able to kind of pull off what Minato and like Naruto are eventually able to do. He's gonna kind of just be able to like take a few seconds to kind of blink into it, like closes his eyes, waits 5 seconds, and boom, Sage Mode. And Naruto's gonna be like that too. And probably takes him like 5 seconds of being completely still to enter Sage Mode. And that's like in Mount Miyaboku. In the real world, it's definitely gonna be probably something like 10 to 30 seconds, which in a battle on the battlefield can definitely be very risky. But Naruto does end up learning Sage Mode, and and he ends up furthering his usage of his Wind Style Rasengan. He not only learns how to use the Rasen Shuriken, but similarly to how he was doing when he was training with Wind Style Rasengan, he learns to throw it. I know that with his Sage Mode training, he learned how to throw the Rasen Shuriken in private. Here, he's gonna learn how to throw the Wind Style Rasengan and the Wind Style Rasen Shuriken whether he is in Sage mode or not. When he's not in Sage mode, he has to use the Gale Palm. But when he's in Sage mode, he can just throw it like he normally does, since there's natural energy added to it, and it can keep it stable. But outside of Sage mode, he has to use the Wind Style Gale Palm to kind of add that little bit of Wind Chakra to keep it stabilized as it's sailing through the air towards his opponent. And the proper Rasen Shuriken and his Sage mode, he's basically having them as um, last resorts if he has to fight against Gara. He has no idea what level of synergy Gara has with his tailed beast, and they're like ultimately just last ditch efforts if things go bad. Um, he doesn't really plan on using them against Sakura and or Hinata and Sasuke. And he reasons to himself, he definitely wants to take their battle seriously when they end up, when they do end up having their battles. But he ends up rationalizing it to himself. Maybe he's a little guilty, but he ends up rationalizing, well, it's the same way that they won't come at me with killing intent with using their techniques. Like Hinata won't come at me to use her 64 palms trying to completely kill me. She'll use it knowing that I can break out of it. And in that same manner, he knows that Sasuke won't be going at him with his Mangekyo Sharingan trying to set him on fire with a Materasu. Um, he's like, he won't try to set me on fire with those black flames of his. And Hinata's not going to be trying to stop my heart or anything using her gentle fist. So I'm perfectly fine, going a little a little holding these more lethal techniques back. Now Naruto here is going to be getting his Sage Cloak, and he's also going to be upgrading his jacket to his overall outfit's going to be upgraded to a Shippuden look. It's just obviously smaller. So he has that Sage mode Shippuden look. He's not going to be, or he is going to be having his scroll. He's going to be using that to reverse summon his now three shadow clones that he has on backup that use Sage mode, so that he can use it immediately on the battlefield. Um, yeah. So that was covering Naruto's training, and he's now properly ready to face off against his teammates. Now Hinata, like I mentioned before, um, she's gonna be, hold on, Hinata redesign, because I want to give them all new outfits. Naruto's going to be getting his Shippuden look with the Sage Cloak. Um, Sasuke's going to be getting that cool black outfit with the bandages that I really like. And I'm trying to look for like a Hinata Part 1 redesign. Nothing too crazy. I'll end up deciding on something soon. But her training, like I said, is going to be split with she's going to be training with Anko. She's going to be making use of poisons. She's going to be getting used to the kind of craftiness and unpredictability, the unorthodox fighting style, similar to how Naruto would fight. Since Anko's definitely not going to be holding back. She's definitely that dirty kind of fighter, and she ends up learning how to make better usage of her senbon, her poisons. She's able to have them more ready on the battlefield, and she's going to be improving her usage of her I believe I had it that her piercing and her paralyzing 64 techniques. Yeah. And she's going to be properly upgrading them. She's going to get them to the point where she considers them mastered. So she's going to have her she's going to kind of be diversifying it just a little bit more. So she has her paralyzing 64 palms. Like I said before, it's her making usage of poison, senbon, and the paralyzing aspect of of lightning chakra, as well as striking more non-lethal chakra points, and even making usage of now her usage of the chakra scalpel to even damage muscle tendons, kind of like what Kabuto was doing, damaging tendons in like the wrists, around the innards of the elbows or the back of the knees, um, muscle tendons that'll basically, basically cause you to kind of, fall down like a puppet without its strings cut. It'll cause you to like topple over, collapse on yourself, collapse down to the floor, and completely remove you from the fight as non-lethally and as painlessly as possible. Um, Her piercing 64 palms is her making more lethal use of her lightning enhanced chakra scalpel, um, more deadly placed senbon that are more meant to pierce directly into vital and potentially lethal chakra points and pressure points. And her making use of the normal 64 palm technique that are more deadly, going for more deadly shots. And her protective 64 palms is her properly making use of her chakra scalpel enhanced by lightning to make that barrier that she does, with the protective 64 palms to basically stave off enemy attacks, as well as to take care of um, swarms of debris or enemies. It would be a good counter for Aburame clan techniques. It would be able to take down swarms of projectiles, and she also learns how to properly make use of the rotation. She was there when Kakashi was teaching Naruto how to use the Rasengan, and using her Byakugan, she was able to kind of dismantle the rotationary chakra aspects of it. And now her training with Neji, her father, and Hanabi, she does learn how to properly use the rotation. Um, Beyond that, I could see her taking up training with Ino and Sakura. They saw her battle in the preliminaries against Neji, and here they've kind of gotten over their crushes for Sasuke. Sakura is probably definitely clinging onto it just a little bit, but Ino's properly moved on. But they themselves are taking their shinobi careers more seriously. Like I mentioned before, Sakura kind of, she delved into using her chakra control and being trained by Kurenai, she's like a proper genjutsu mistress in the making. Whereas Ino learned how to make some basics of genjutsu with her, her mind techniques from her clan, so that she could make use of them against opponents. Basically, she's able to pull out mind fuckery, but to a much greater scale. And the two of them are solid opponents for Hinata, since she has such superb chakra control, leagues above even theirs. Or at the very least, she's like one or two tiers ahead of them. They end up deciding to learn from each other. They want to be more useful to their teams, so they actually end up talking to Hinata probably around the time of her halfway through her second week of training, and they're actually talked into joining in Anko's training regiment, and since they've kind of been taken out of the tournament and they won't really be, they won't be facing off against each other. And Kurenai probably still has a bit of a soft spot for Hinata. We know that they had a relationship before, um, being, before the teams were probably even formed. So, and since Anko and Kurenai, I'm pretty sure they are friends. I don't know if that's just a fanon thing, but I'm pretty sure they're actually friends. So, about halfway through the second week of training for Hinata, around the same time where or no, yeah, I don't know what I was trying to get to. I kind of lost that train of thought. But yeah, second halfway through the second week of training, like third day, um, not only do Sakura and Ino end up joining the training, the training is now going to be double jointed. It's going to be Anko and Kurenai. So Hinata might be learning a little bit about genjutsu. Maybe she'll learn one or two genjutsu that she can make use of with her poisons. Whereas it's mainly going to be for Sakura and Ino. They're going to be learning how to do medical ninjutsu with Hinata. She's going to be like teaching them, and they'll also be learning how to make use of poisons. Maybe Ino will learn how to use more scent-based poisons. Make use of flowers, get some extracts so that she can extract poisons from them. Makes use of them in her senbon, and even like I remember in like the Naruto Ninja Storm games, Hinata or had like this flower bomb jutsu where like she threw like these combust. I don't know what they were supposed to be, but they were like she threw like these flowers at you that would combust and like blow up. So maybe she learns how to like use her genjutsu to mask the scent of like poisonous flowers that she set up to use against her enemies, or like poisonous ointments. And Sakura's definitely going to be learning like the Mystic Palm Jutsu, and she's going to be learning how to use chakra to. She ends up showing the two of them that she's able to use chakra to enhance her strength. Um, she kind of got some, maybe like some inspiration from seeing Lee use the gates. So she ends up learning that, in her readings, in her studies, since she's such a bookworm and she's very intelligent. She ends up studying about Tsunade of the Sanin, and how she was not only the world renowned medical ninjutsu expert, but that she was able to use her supreme chakra control to enhance her physical strength. So that's definitely something they're going to be trying to learn. And Hinata's, like I said, she properly refines her various techniques from her clan, and she's also trying to develop a bit of an original jutsu based off of the Chidori. She ends up learning and crafting her own signature jutsu, and that signature jutsu is going to be the purple lightning technique. So, in the novels and in Boruto, Kakashi, since he lost his Sharingan, he ends up having to kind of rework the Chidori and the Lightning Blade into a technique called Purple Lightning. Um, hold on. Yeah, Purple Lightning Naruto. Uh, yeah, Lightning Release, Purple Electricity, or I think it's called like Shiden in Japanese. And he's basically able to use it. Um, he's able to use it in like a variety of ways. Yeah, so he's not only able to use it kind of like, the Raikiri, where he coats his hand in lightning and is able to tear through opponents. So he can use it at close range, but I also remember him being able to use it similar to the Chidori stream, where he was able to cause it to kind of arc out in streams of electricity to not only hit like AoE, area of effect, so it could be like a wide range across like a multitude of opponents, but he could also use it to purposefully strike at one enemy in particular. He could use it as like a one single target long range jutsu. Yeah, so like he was able to create a blast strong enough to remove blah 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 blah. Yeah, he can use it in like a variety of ways, even though it's only one technique. So he's gonna be able to but maybe she doesn't quite get that far because it is kind of a bit of an OP jutsu. So instead, we're gonna say that she's trying to rework the abilities of the Chidori, and I'm gonna give her Chidori Senbon and Chidori Stream. Yeah, I'm gonna give her Chidori Senbon, Chidori Stream, and Chidori Nagashi. These are gonna be what she initially ends up creating through her various experimenting, with her lightning control, with her lightning chakra and the Chidori. So she ends up learning how to use. She's gonna learn how to use those three jutsu that Sasuke created. So the Chidori Stream, the Chidori Aso, which I believe is like Chidori True Spear, in English, and the Chidori Senbon, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. Let me make sure. Hold on. Chidori Stream. Yeah, so it's Chidori Stream, Chidori Senbon, Chidori True Spear. Yeah, or Sharp Spear, whatever, one or the other. She basically, coats the Chidori in her hand, and then she ends up like extending it like a laser blade almost, like a pure blade of lightning. And with her chakra control, yeah, she can definitely manage it. So Sasuke's gonna be, he's gonna be learning the running Fang Jutsu, the the Raikiri. He does end up learning how to, do that Rock Lee Taijutsu that he ended up copying. So he's gonna have like that probably even faster than weightless Lee, since he's already so much stronger just to begin with. And yeah, and he's also, he's definitely making better use of his running his lightning through his chakra blades. That just becomes all the more potent now that he can actually cut. Now that he can channel the lightning cutter, the proper Raikiri through it. Similar to how he could channel his Chidori through his sword, he can now channel the Raikiri through his chakra blades. So yeah, and I believe and Sasuke himself, he'll probably also be adding some techniques to his fire style. I already gave him like the Dragon Flame Ball, the Flame Dragon Fire Bomb Jutsu. Um, what else could I give him in terms of like fire release jutsu? Maybe he learns not only the lightning clone, but he also learns like a fire clone jutsu. Similar to the explosive shadow clone jutsu, it basically just like explodes in a proper fireball though. So it doesn't have as much concussive force, but if you're in it, you're definitely going to be a lot more burned than you would if you were caught by an explosive shadow clone. So he ends up learning how to make use of lightning clones and fire clones. And maybe he gets some training with with his Mangekyo Sharingan. It's a little risky, but he learns just he instead of actually training in its abilities or unlocking the Susanoo, he instead learns how to make use of higher tier Genjutsu. He instead only uses it to increase the power of his Genjutsu, and that mitigates the progressing of the blindness by quite a substantial amount, since he's not using any of the signature abilities of the Mangekyo. Um, but yeah, that ends up covering up their training. And like I said, some rubbing off on and Sakura, and Hinata. Like I said, her overall outfit, you can kind of imagine however you want. Hinata Part One Rita's outfits. Let me see. What kind of existing looks does she have outside of your normal jacket? I could see it kind of taking inspiration from like that black jumpsuit we sometimes see her wear when she's training. She has like a few outfits where she's wearing like more black clothing. That's cool. Hold on, there's like a cool outfit here where she's like wearing a purplish gi. It's like almost a gray purple gi. Kind of like what Tsunade wears. She has like the robe that she has to like cross over her shirt is like kind of like a robe that she crosses over, and then she ties off with a belt. It almost looks like a gi, and she wears like a black Hiyori. Again, it kind of looks like Tsunade. It kind of has like a Tsunade look to it. That's cool. What? Oh, it's something from DeviantArt. Search up like Hinata Hyuga outfit color Naruto by Tsunaki Sabakuno on DeviantArt. Tsunaki Sabakuno. Dude, this is cool. And it has, of course, it has to have more inappropriate outfits, despite the fact that this is a teenage, like a literally prepubescent girl. She's like 12 or 13, but then again, this is anime, so I don't know what I expected. But that's cool. She even has a Shizune. It's literally Shizune's outfit. What? She literally has the Shizune outfit. Oh, that's cool though. Oh, these are a whole bunch of cool outfits. I like them a lot. Okay, yeah, she kind of ends up changing up her look a little bit. She ends up kind of, she's not going to be using the sweater here. She's not going to have her usual coat look. She ends up opting for basic shinobi sandals with those bandage wraps that end up going around the ankles and stuff. Um, she ends up having like an overall kind of light gray with like a hint with like a little tint of purple to it, a little tint of lavender to it. Um, Kind of martial artist look. Like I said, it kind of looks like what Tsunade would wear. That crossed over robe shirt and kind of like baggy pants to go with it, and a black Hiyori. And she definitely has, she has the mesh. She has that chainmail mesh that all shinobi has. The same kind of shirt that we kind of see Naruto wear sometimes under his jacket. She has that kind of mesh going on under her shirt, and she ends up having, her ninja headband tied around her neck. She has the the wrapping for her kunai holster, and I could actually imagine her wrapping up, kind of doing wrappings not all the way up around her hand, but like around her wrists, like around her forearms, and like underneath it, kind of like what we see with Sasuke do. He had like those seals on his wrist so that he could. So she's gonna be using it to pull out. She like depending on like how much chakra, or perhaps like with a specific sequence of chakra, like sending it in pulses, she's able to pull out anywhere from regular senbon to like paralytic senbon, hallucinogenic based senbon, or like properly deadly poison senbon. It really depends on what she wants, and using her supreme chakra control, she's able to pull out whatever she wants, and she's even able to pull out shuriken and kunai that have like similar kind of modes: normal, um, deadly poison, paralytic poison, hallucinogenic poison, and yeah. And Sasuke's gonna be coming in with that all black outfit, and Naruto ends up coming in with the drippiest outfit. Even if he is I could see him being a little taller though, going out for regular meals with both Sasuke and Hinata. They probably encourage him to eat something outside of ramen. So they sometimes end up talking him into going to different restaurants. He's getting a more varied diet, and Hinata probably ends up kind of mothering him just that little bit, which he kind of appreciates. And even if it does kind of bum him out that he can't eat ramen as much, but he ends up getting a proper diet, and he actually experienced a growth spurt probably over the course of his training. It's like it's been waiting, and now that he comes back, he's like equal in height with Sasuke, who I believe was like one of the tallest. I believe he was like one of the tallest of the rookies. So he ends up coming back same height as Sasuke, and Sasuke's actually not gonna be late this time. Sasuke and Kakashi aren't gonna be late. Their training wasn't as rushed. He was properly well versed in using lightning style beforehand, and now he's only improving that. So their training was able to go smoothly. Everyone's training was able to go smoothly, and yeah, they end up coming back. Everyone meets up, and we end up getting to their battles. So Naruto versus Sasuke, or Naruto versus Hinata, the opening match, and yeah, it's absolutely insane. So they do end up, they start off, they all kind of, they all met up with each other, maybe like a few hours before it was properly started. They ended up meeting at Ishira. They ended up meeting at that cafe that Hinata likes to get her cinnamon buns from, and they met up there, had some dessert as like a small breakfast, and they traded some stories, more so of like funny stories. Hinata shares that she not only trained with her family, and that she was able to properly mend things with Neji, which maybe Naruto and Sasuke is definitely a little questioning of. They heard and saw his ferocity that he had, and animosity that Neji held against Hinata before. They're kind of unconvinced, but they figure that they'll see more. She's like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll meet up with each other. We're gonna be meeting up with them at the arena, so we can talk to him for a little bit. You can see for yourselves. I promise. Uh, Big Brother Neji isn't as bad as he used to be." And they're like, "All right, but if he tries anything, they're definitely gonna be sticking up a Rasen Shuriken and a Raikiri up his ass if he ends up trying anything." But beyond that, Naruto ends up, and she also talks about the fact that she trained with not only Kurenai, but she also trained with Sakura and Ino, which definitely surprises them. They're like, "Oh, them?" And maybe Ino herself has developed a little bit of a crush on Naruto, which Hinata's not going to be letting fly. She's definitely going to be. She's decided kind of for herself, since she had a lot of girl time with them. She's decided she's definitely going to be going after Naruto. She's going to be gunning after him after these tuning exams are over. Um, but beyond that, yeah, so she ends up saying like, yeah, they're proper friends now, and they've really been taking their training seriously. She thinks that they're going to be training a little bit more going forward in the future. They want to learn a lot more about medical ninjutsu, and she figures it'd be good to have people to bounce ideas off of, especially since they're actually helping her get into the usage of genjutsu. And maybe this bumps Sasuke out. He's like, I could have helped you, you know. Me and Kakashi could have helped you out. I mean, we are Dojutsu users too. And she, gives him like a consoling pat on the shoulder. He's like, don't worry, I'm definitely going to be asking you for help. I'm curious if I can use genjutsu through my Dojutsu the way that you do with the Sharingan. But they'll be helping me more with more conventional and basic genjutsu. And she's like, maybe I can show you a few things. And he's definitely considering that. And this is where Sasuke jumps off. He's like, "Yeah, Kakashi and I kind of trained privately in the mountains. He taught me a few techniques based around lightning style and just helped me improve my usage of my Sharingan. But he obviously doesn't give too much away. He's like, "Yeah, we don't really have too many stories. There was a few times where he actually we almost passed out while we were training, even when we were on the mountainside climbing up the mountain. And this definitely gets a few concerned looks. Maybe Naruto tries to chuckle it off, but Hinata is definitely a little worried. And he's like, "Oh no no no, don't worry, we're fine. Those ninja hounds of Kakashi's they were keeping watch. They would have been able to catch us." We were climbing it normally, whereas they were sticking to it using chakra. So they would have been able to catch us in case we were about to slip or fall. And Naruto ends up throwing in his comments. He's like, "Yeah, I traded with this guy that Kakashi Sensei introduced me to. Apparently, he knew him back during his time as an Anbu. Uh, I think his name was Yamato. He was super cool. He was able to use the first Okage's wood style jutsu. Apparently, it wasn't as strong, but it was still pretty cool. He could do all sorts of things with it, and the wood was pretty strong. Even if I could bust through it with a Rasengan, it was kind of hard to get through using my wind style stuff." And he ends up telling them, he's like, "And plus, the wood style ended up helping me train using that chakra." And this gets him a little concerned. He's like, "Oh, don't worry. That's mainly a bit of a backup plan for you know who." And they're all like, "Yeah, we have backup plans of our own. We have some secret jutsu to pull out against Gara if they feel that they need to." And he's like, "Yeah, and beyond that, I trained with Jiraiya of the Sannin." And this definitely gets raised eyebrows from the both of them. They're like, "Jiraiya of the Sannin? The student of the third Hokage?" He's like, "Damn straight, he taught me all sorts of things. But don't worry, you'll be seeing that soon enough. Both of you will." And this kind of both of you will be seeing what I learned up close and personal. And this actually once again kind of irks Hinata. She's like, "Why are you saying that as if you're gonna be facing Sasuke head to head? You think I can't beat you?" He's like, "It's not that, but I'm pretty confident in my own chances." And she's like, We'll see exactly what you have to say about that when we meet each other in the ring. If anything, I'm gonna be the one to beat you, Naruto." And I'll even beat Sasuke too. And this gets them all riled up. They're throwing some barbs against one another. It's some lighthearted banter. And they end up moving out towards the arena. And I think I'll cover the Konoha Crush. Yeah, screw it. Why the hell not? So they end up getting there. All the rookies end up meeting up with one another. Like I said, Gara did kind of put down Dosu. So that ended up happening. And unfortunately, we're not gonna get that awesome match of Shikamaru versus Tamari, since Sasuke is here from the get go. But yeah, either way, we end up they all meet up with one another. Neji kind of apologizes for his assholery before, with how he was before, and Naruto and Sasuke were like, "We're not the ones you need to apologize to," and he's like, and they actually end up meeting Hinata's dad when he introduces himself into the conversation. And he's like, "Yes, we've already talked a lot, but everything within most of the issues within our family has been properly settled. Although from what I hear, or from what Hinata has told me, you seem to be honorary members of the family itself." He definitely gives them a bit of a stare down, which might intimidate them a little bit, but they're definitely holding their ground. And he actually ends up smiling. He's like, "I'm glad that my daughter has two dependable young men looking after her. It warms my heart to know that she has such proper comrades and powerful ones as well, if what I've heard is correct. And Hanabi's kind of, watching from behind her brother. She's like poking her head out. She's being like the nosy little brat. She's met with Konohamaru. She's been interested in her sister's team from like the very beginning, especially since she knows that her sister's crush is on the team. And she definitely kind of gets like a little bit of a grin. She grins to herself. She definitely wants to make things embarrassing, but she also knows that her sister needs to keep her head in the game. So she's like, "I'll be waiting. When I have my moments, I will be the proper little sister that I need to be, and tease Hinata to death." She's definitely gonna be messing with her sister in Naruto. Not so much Sasuke. Hell, she might even rope him in since Sasuke has a bit of a tendency of making comments that used to fly over Naruto's head, but he's been developing a bit of his own infatuation for Hinata. But either way, we end up starting with the first match, and they both kind of they hop down into the ring, and they end up standing across from one another. When he ends up throwing his hand down, he says begin. That's when they instantly snap into their stances, but they're not quite yet engaging against one another. Hinata ends up speaking first after a few moments of silence, and she questions him. "You are going to take this battle seriously, aren't you, Naruto? You wouldn't hold back against me, would you?" And he ends up retorting he's not going to be going for the killing blow or anything. But no, he won't be holding back. He'll be showing her everything that he needs, and probably even a little more to take her down. And she's like, "Good, I'll be doing the exact same." And then they end up engaging in some basic taijutsu. She's using the gentle fist, but she's not quite using her Byakugan. And he's making the use of his own fighting style. Probably some frog kumite, I think that's what it's called. Or frog kata, what he ended up learning from the toads. And it's a little bit unorthodox from his usual fighting style, but it's much more refined. And he's shown clear skill in it. Um, he's not quite as skilled as Hinata is with the gentle fist, but his usage of shadow clones to train the basic skill of frog kata, it's definitely helped him. And he's able to he's able to throw some hands with Hinata, but she ends up upping the speed, and he ends up responding to it. Um, ever since he's learned how to use wind chakra while using the Kyuubi's chakra, kind of molding them together, he's had the idea of using wind chakra instead of just basic chakra to enhance his speed in combat. So he's actually kind of kicking up gusts of wind, and he's actually moving faster than probably around the same speed as Naruto was when he was facing off against Neji when he used the Kyuubi's chakra. He's kind of, he's trying to develop ways so that he doesn't have to rely on the Kyuubi's chakra. Since he does have a bit of empathy for him, he knows that he's been sealed inside of him. He doesn't want to be used as a weapon, so he's trying to develop ways so that he doesn't always have to rely on his power. So it's not completely refined. He doesn't have like a wind armor or anything. But he's definitely kicking up some speed. He's probably using like I keep forgetting the body flicker. I keep forgetting what it's called in English. I know it's like kawarimi in Japanese. It's like kawarimi, but yeah, it's called body flicker in English. He's making use of that jutsu so that he can like move around the battlefield, and he's beginning to take to his range attacks of using shuriken, and he's using his shuriken jutsu, and Hinata ends up responding. She's sending out lightning enhanced senbon, or maybe even just basic chakra enhanced senbon, to pierce and cut through his shuriken. And he's like, "Hey, those aren't cheap, you know." And he's like, "Oh well, I can always make them. I can always make more in bulk." And or he doesn't have to do the sign. Like I said before, he's gotten good enough that he doesn't need to anymore. He ends up throwing out a single one and ends up turning into a swarm. And she ends up activating her Byakugan and using her protective 64 palms. And he's like, "Hey, you finally got it down. You're comfortable. You're comfortable with the 64 palms variant now, huh?" And she's like, "Definitely, but I can do a lot more than that. Just you wait." And he's like, "Oh, I can't wait. Are you kidding? I can't wait any longer." He ends up pulling out his chakra blades, and she ends up empowering her hands with like her chakra scalpels, enhanced by lightning, which he then turns up the dial by enhancing his chakra blades with wind, and they end up facing off against each other. They're clanging against one another. Hinata using her supreme chakra control to match his chakra enhanced blades. And despite the fact that he has more chakra, despite the fact that his element is at the advantage, she's able to properly hold her own by using pure technique. She's deflecting and redirecting each one of the strikes, and she's kind of like flowing like water. You can almost imagine like what Garo and Silverfang do, with the way that that blue energy would arc around. She's kind of doing something similar, but there's always a crackle of energy. It's always waiting so that it seemingly flows like water, only for her to strike like lightning. You know, that literal fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. It'll move around gently throughout the air whenever it's not directly being used. But the second she needs to meet Naruto in a clash of blades and she needs to deflect it, she's lightning quick. It's like a bit of a mixture of lightning and water. And she's diverting all of the attacks that he's throwing at her before he ends up kicking away from her. He's able to break through her defenses just for a brief second. Um, and normally she would have been able to properly block it, but he actually, for a brief second, just used a flare of the Kyuubi's chakra to speed up that kick so that he can bounce away. It kind of landed directly on her face, and he's like, "What? Don't tell me." And she ends up stumbling for a brief second. He's like, "Don't tell me that was enough to take you out of the fight." And she's like, "Oh, definitely not." And she ends up surprising him by launching out a vacuum palm technique. You know, that Hyuga technique that they had. She ends up lashing out with a vacuum palm to strike him from afar, and he he ends up uh, he ends up replying by slashing through the air to cut through it, but she's already disappeared. He turns around and she's directly behind him. Somehow she was able to completely outmaneuver him, and she ends up briefly landing a strike using her paralyzing using just a paralyzing touch. She ends up only landing the two palm variant. You know, she's about to start the you know how they have to build up to it. They have to go two palms, four palms, eight palms, eight palms, 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms. So she ends up only being able to use the two palm before he ends up kind of he ends up releasing a sealless great breakthrough. It's not as powerful, but he basically unleashes like a gust of wind to break off the encounter. He's like, "Nope, I'm not letting you get me with that." But she's like, "I'm sorry, Naruto, but it's all. But that alone was well enough to begin to begin my path to victory." And he's like a little confused, and he actually stumbles for brief. He ends up stumbling. He even ends up slurring his words when he asks, what exactly did she do?" And she's like, "Wouldn't you like to know?" She's not gonna be posturing around explaining everything. She's like, "I'll be sure to explain after I win the match." And they end up engaging in battle, and Naruto, as he's getting tagged more and more, she's able to get another two palms off on him. And the third encounter, she gets off of four palms. Then she's able to build up to 16 palms and finally she's able to make another jump all the way to the 64 palms, paralyzing touch, or paralyzing 8 trigrams, 64 palms. And this actually, he's like, "Oh, yeah, definitely can't hold back anymore." And he ends up flaring up the Kyuubi's chakra, mainly to get it all out of his system. He briefly enters that whiskered state that with the claws and everything, but he ends up going back into that initial just flare of red chakra surrounding him. His eyes turn back into blue, and he's like, "Man, I definitely didn't expect it to be that intense. Man, your poisons are no joke." But he's like, but that's still not going to be enough to take me out of this battle. He ends up powering up a Rasengan. He's like, "If you don't meet me with," he's like, "I'll be sure to try to take you out with this. I don't think I want to hit you more than once with a full power Rasengan, but I know I can't hold back." He ends up charging forward faster than anyone in the stands except for Sasuke, Kakashi, and the Jonin can see. Everyone except for Dojutsu users and Jonin, all of the Chunin in the crowd, and all of the rest of the Rookie 9 aside from Sasuke, or Rookie 12 I should say, they're not even able to keep up with how fast he moves with a blur of wind, just like a burst of wind from where he was once standing. And he's about to make contact with a Rasengan, but she ends up retorting with a 8 trigrams rotation. And they end up clashing against one another, and they're actually able to briefly compete with one another, but Naruto's Rasengan is very clearly superior to the rotation. But she ends up stating that that was all she needed was that brief second. She's not quite as good at using this jutsu, and she didn't even learn it properly. She had to completely reconstruct it from memory. She doesn't really have the copy aspect of the Sharingan, but her visual prowess and being able to um, look at chakra is her ability. Her visual prowess in that aspect is superior to that of the Sharingans. And Naruto's kind of confused by what is she talking about until she ends up revealing of Rasengan in her right hand, and she ends up clashing with Naruto. Now Naruto's is more chakra dense, it is more powerful, but he does briefly like stumble physically and mentally when he sees that she's pulling out the Rasengan against him. He didn't even think she could use it. He knew that that she was like looking at it, like she was constantly paying attention to whenever he was training with it, and that's when it kind of clicks in his mind. Yeah, it should have been obvious when she was watching all of his training in the Rasengan, but they end up clashing their Rasengans, and once again, Naruto's does prove superior, but his brief stuttering and stumbling in the process of having them clash against one another kind of does cause him to pull back and retreat. He's like, okay, I need to reevaluate this. Hinata not only has the chakra to pull it off, she not only has the ability to pull off the Rasengan in the first place, but the chakra deserves to pull it off and still be standing. And he ends up getting a good look at her. She's not even properly winded yet. She's not even. She's like maybe she huffs and she like breathes out like a little bit of a sigh of relief. She knew that if Naruto really went through with it, she would have lost that clash. But she was counting on the overall wowness factor to throw him off and to get him to back off, and it ended up working. But she won't be able to do that again. But luckily she does have a few ideas, and he's like, okay, definitely gonna have to make sure she can't pull out another Rasengan. Gonna have to take her down with my next series of attacks. So he ends up pulling out some kunai, which he holds them between his fingers, and with the cloak and the blonde hair, the blue eyes, and holding his kunai the way he does, having them all between his fingers, everyone kind of briefly gets some Minato flashbacks. Um, Maybe Kakashi, specifically like Kakashi and Hiruzen, kind of wonder. There's no way Jiraiya taught him the Hiraishin, did he? And luckily for them and the entire world, he hasn't. But he does end up throwing out his kunai, and they end up, they turn into the whole swarm. And here she decides to retaliate instead with a Chidori Nagashi, a Chidori stream. And this is able to take all of the fact that he hid in explosive kunai clones and stuff in there. Um, in the swarm, there were some explosive kunai clones. Um, and she ends up deciding to improvise. She knows for a fact that Naruto's going to be coming in with another Rasengan soon, and she's right. She hears the swirling sound of chakra, and she's able to see it coming in from above. He ended up vaulting over the swarm and tried to get her from above. So he's kind of like falling down with a big ball Rasengan, and but when he ends up seeing the fact that she's now going to be mixing her Chidori stream, this weird lightning ninjutsu, with her rotation, she ends up creating it's a bit unstable, but overall she's able to maintain the form, and she ends up revealing her pulsating 8 trigrams rotation, pulsating rotation, and you can definitely see the pulsation as like arcs of lightning are sparking off of the seemingly unstable flux of chakra that is constantly spinning. It's like a I don't really know how to explain it. It's like it's rotating like the normal rotation, but there are moments where like it begins to arc out, almost like a miniature sun. Like the semisphere is kind of like arcing out bolts of electricity, and it's very much more wild in comparison to the traditional rotation. And he's like, "Oh, should I use that variant?" And he actually ends up powering down his Rasengan into a normal size. And everyone's kind of confused. And Hinata herself, she does still have her Byakugan up. He's like, "He's not holding back against me, is he?" And then they hear a light pitched whine. It's not as powerful as it would be for the Rasen Shuriken, but he does pull out the mini wind style Rasengan, and he ends up colliding against the or no, just like the the wind style Rasengan, and he ends up clashing with the pulsating rotation, or I'm gonna say the pulsing rotation. He ends up clashing with the pulsing rotation, and this actually creates like a proper, almost like a clash, just similar to what happened in the Valley of the End in part one, that initial clash between the Chidori and the Rasengan. Probably at a similar scale, more because more from Naruto's side. And when the whole show is over, Hinata is knocked out. Naruto is kind of cradling her unconscious body in his arms, and she probably has some burn marks, both electrical and some cuts on her skin from the wind style, all over her hands. And he's kind of much of the same, except it's not only on his hand but also across his face. And he's like, "Yeah, can we get a medic?" And Hinata actually ends up kind of waking up from being knocked out, and she's like, she's labeled as a loser just before she. I don't want to say the loser. Naruto is hailed as the winner of the match as she begins to wake up, and yeah, so Naruto is hailed as the winner. She's like, "I think I have some ointments for this." And he ends up asking her if she's okay. She's like, "Yeah, a little bummed I didn't win, but I had a few other techniques to show." And he's like, "Oh, don't worry. Um, you'll definitely be able to show your stuff next time. Besides, you're a lot smarter than me. I wouldn't be surprised if they just gave you tuning off of that." And she ends up chuckling a little bit. She's like, "I'm not really sure if that's how it works. I think I had to win to get tuning." He's like, "Ah, if the old man doesn't make you tuning, I'll talk to him about it. I definitely have I probably have a few cards I can pull, and and if I really need to, I'll just sick Konohamaru on him." And she ends up chuckling. She's like, "Maybe I'll get Hanabi to join in on the fun." She's been developing a bit of a mischievous streak as of late, and they end up chuckling with one another. She's actually beginning to use some healing jutsu on the both of them. She's actually able to completely heal most, if not all, of her burns and cuts. Anything that's left over, she's able to put her own ointment over, and she ends up adding some ointment since she knows her chakra. Naruto's going to be able to take care of most of his healing on himself, but she does add her own ointments for the electrical burns and cuts of wind onto Naruto's face and hand. And maybe they have a bit of a moment. They kind of end up moving into one of the hallways or one of the medical rooms. They're like, "Oh no, we can take care of it ourselves. Don't worry." Um, they end up treating up they kind of treat each other's wounds. He's like, "Here, let me." He says, he's kind of in better shape. He's like, "Here, I'll take care of your wounds, and then you can take care of whatever I have." And they have a bit of a nice moment. It's a bit quiet, and then it's ruined by Sasuke barging in. He's like, "You guys aren't gonna be missing my match, right? Or are you gonna be too busy making out?" And this kind of gets the two of them to bolt away from one another. They were definitely, as Hinata was like working on Naruto's wounds after he helped her with hers, and she was definitely kind of lingering around around his face for a few seconds longer than necessary. And he's like, "Yeah, I really hope you don't take to making out over watching my match." And they're like, "No." They kind of bolt away from one another, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're a little more mature about it, just that little bit. They're like, "It wasn't like that. Shut up." Naruto's definitely the one telling her to shut up, and Hinata's kind of like grumbling to herself, pouting. She was like, "I was gonna make my move." She's like, "Goddamn cockblocker." But they're like, "No, we're definitely gonna be watching your match against Gaara. Don't worry." They don't want to leave him alone. They're like, "Yeah." They can already tell something fishy is going on. They don't really know what, but something is setting off their instincts. They're really not sure what it is, but just something is bothering them. They have like this little sense of unease that's been kind of building, and Sasuke's name is once again kind of called. He's been kind of delaying, waiting for Naruto and Hinata to be finished. He's like, "Come on, I want to make sure that you're there, especially if something goes down." And they actually kind of question him. He's like, "Has he heard something?" He's like, he thinks Kakashi knows something, but he's not entirely sure what it is, if he even does know anything. He just knows that something's gonna be off, and he wants to be prepared. He wants everyone safe and sticking together as much as possible. He's not gonna risk losing his family again, and this kind of causes them to soften up a little bit on him. They tell him that there's nothing to worry about, and even if there is, they'll take care of it together, like they always have. He smirks a little, but he kind of, once again, he's keeping some of his thoughts to himself, but he does smirk at them, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm sure we will." And he ends up moving into the arena to face off against Gaara. with Naruto Hinata kind of arriving probably hand in hand without even noticing it. Sasuke didn't even comment on it. He wanted everyone else to point it out so that and he is satisfied and rewarded when he hears like a bit of a commotion coming from the stands as he's moving to face against Gaara. He's like, huh, guess they finally noticed. They really are blind. Or maybe not for long, if the way Hinata was looking at Naruto is any indication. But Gaara ends up getting him to snap out of it. Snap out of it. He's like, I suggest you pay attention to this fight, Sasuke Uchiha. And he's like, yeah, don't worry. For now, you have all of my attention. There's some interactions on the stand. You can kind of come up with whatever kind of fluff, wholesome stuff that you want. But for now, the battle against Sasuke and Gaara. And you know what? I've gone on longer in some other videos, but I think I'm actually going to leave it here. Leave a little bit of a cliffhanger. So next episode, we will be having the battle against Sasuke and Gaara, as well as the events of the Konoha Crush and the aftermath of that. Dealing with Orochimaru and the like. And yeah, I think that will be where we leave everything off. So Naruto was the winner against his match against Hinata. Wasn't really fair. He is the main character and literally Ninja Jesus. But as we all know now, with benefit of hindsight, but Hinata was actually able to, she was able to hold her own, and it's fairly easy to say she's like proper tuning level. Naruto with going all out is probably Jonin level. If not, he's probably like high tuning, low Jonin. Sasuke himself is around the same level, and like if he were to properly make use of all of his Mangekyo Sharingan abilities, he'd probably be on like a near similar level, like just like that one tier below, in terms of next to Naruto. So like Naruto going all out with Sage Mode, and Sasuke forcing himself to make the full use of his Mangekyo abilities and evolving his Susanoo all the way to its armored stage. They'd probably be around a similar level, whereas Hinata is like that tier below them where she's just getting to that kind of level of power, but she's kind of stuck at like that one tier below them at like high tuning, low joning. Whereas they're at full power, they're like low joning to, or probably like mid joning to like high joning. Not quite Kage level, but they're getting closer and closer when they're at full power. But that full power comes with risks, because Naruto technically going full power would also involve the usage of um, his QB chakra on top of his Sage Mode. But either that's neither here nor there. Yeah, next time we will be getting into the battle against Gaara, the Konoha Crush, and dealing with Orochimaru. We won't be leaving since we're not really going to be having a retrieval arc, or will we? We'll see. But yeah, don't want to spoil too much for the future, but we'll see how things go in the next episode after the battle against Gaara. So like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification if you want to keep up to date with future updates. Let me know what you did and didn't like in those comments. Criticism is accepted, but no need to be a dick. If you just want to criticize for the sake of being an ass and try to tear everyone down, go find something else to enjoy that doesn't come at the expense of someone else's day. But other than that, I will see all of you in the next video. I actually have a new series I'm cooking up, and I'm hoping you guys will like it, but we'll see. For now, bye-bye.